They told Pam Bondi to answer the questions. Instead, she tried to flip the script. What happened next was one of the most brutal confrontations this hearing has seen.
Illinois is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, glad you finally made it here after hiding for 4 months from this committee. I understand why you're hiding from us.
Chairman?
You're one of the worst attorney generals in our history and an instrument of Donald Trump's lawless authoritarian agenda, and I'm glad the American people are seeing who you are, how you act, and the lack of good values. You weaponize the Department of Justice to target immigrants, working families, and anyone that Trump deems an enemy of the state, all to protect real, powerful criminals, including in your administration. My Democratic colleagues have focused on your cover-up of the Epstein files and your passion for protecting pedophiles and child traffickers. That alone is grounds for impeachment. But there's so much more to your corrupt tenure as Attorney General. You directed prosecutors to investigate elected officials in welcoming jurisdictions, and you got thrown out of court when you sued Chicago, Cook County, and Illinois. You directed prosecutors to prioritize low-level immigration cases while gutting enforcement against corporate criminals and public corruption. You revived draconian
You're
law
talking
of
about public corruption,
1798,
Whoa.
which should be repealed to illegally send people to a torture prison in El Salvador. You fired over 100 immigration judges, including the assistant chief immigration judge in Chicago, without cause, and installed unqualified military judges whom you instructed to deny asylum in violation of the law. You prosecute the president's enemies like Jim Comey and Tish James while giving impunity to federal agents who are murdering and brutalizing and terrorizing constituents, including in Chicagoland, in my neighborhood. I saw it last year firsthand. You and Kash Patel covered up the murder of Silverio Villegas Gonzalez in my district by ICE agents. You tried to investigate Renee Good instead of the ICE agent who murdered her, and you tried to cover up the murder of Alex Peretti by CBP agents. You bring fake charges against protesters like the Broadview Six and Marimar Martinez, whom your administration labeled a domestic terrorist. This is the Montessori teacher who lives in my district, while protecting thugs who terrorize us and DHS authority. That's what you do. Protect and enable the criminals who are plundering our society and destroying what's left of democracy and the rule of law. Epstein accomplices, mass DHS thugs, corporate criminals, Tom Homan, Eric Adams, insurrectionists, the list goes on. And you talk about fighting crime, but you protect any criminal who helps you and Trump turn our country into an authoritarian gangster state. And after all this, nobody supports you. I'm not talking about Democrats, I'm talking about conservative judges who are condemning the rampant lawlessness at DOJ under your leadership. Your prosecutors are quitting in droves over being forced to prosecute low-level immigration cases, including in Chicagoland. Your MAGA base despises you because you're covering up the Epstein file. How ironic. And even your own boss has repeatedly complained to your staff about you, calling you weak and ineffective. Weak and ineffective. That's what Donald Trump thinks of you already. You will not win, however. Chicagoland rejects you. The American people reject you. Our communities have demonstrated our strength and resilience in the face of cruelty and cowardice. Democrats must impeach and remove lawless officials like you and Kristi Noem and impose accountability for every criminal action. But you can spare yourself more humiliation. Resign now and submit yourself to accountability by the American people. Mr. Chairman, before I yield back, I ask unanimous consent to submit for the record this Wall Street Journal article dated January 12, 2026, entitled, "Trump has complained about Pam Bondi repeatedly to aides." Thank you, and I yield back.
Objection. Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the chairman.
May I have 20 seconds, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Let's hear the opposition research.
Thank you. That's absolutely right, that they're not running for, he's not running for office again because, well, I don't know why you're not running for office again, but after the filing deadline, you publicly announced you would not run when your chief of staff, Chuy Garcia, announced and took your seat.
That's
I
a
believe
state matter.
Democrats
That
got
isn't a
angry
federal
about
matter.
that
You should
as well.
investigate crimes.
I believe
Time belongs-
Democrats
time
got
belongs-
angry
you should
about that as
investigate
Time
well.
belongs to the gentleman
violations
from
of the law.
Texas. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas.
And a little flexible.
This moment wasn't about decorum, personalities, or political theater. It was about accountability, and Pam Bondi clearly wasn't prepared for it. When Chuy Garcia took the mic, he didn't waste a second playing along with DOJ talking points or MAGA outrage distractions. He laid out a damning record of selective enforcement, abandoned prosecutions, and a Justice Department that seems far more interested in protecting political allies than enforcing the law evenly. What made this exchange explode wasn't just Garcia's words, it was Bondi's reaction. Instead of rebutting the substance of the allegations, she went on the offensive, accusing Garcia of political motives and trying to reframe legitimate oversight as partisan harassment. That's not strength, that's deflection. When a sitting attorney general responds to detailed accusations with personal attacks instead of facts, it tells you everything you need to know about the weakness of her position. Garcia zeroed in on a core contradiction, a DOJ that aggressively targets protesters, immigrants, and local officials while dragging its feet, or outright stonewalling, when it comes to powerful figures, federal agents, and politically connected actors. This wasn't some abstract critique. It was grounded in real cases, real victims, and real communities that have felt the consequences of federal overreach paired with federal silence. And Bondi's attempt to flip the blame only reinforced the point. Oversight isn't an election move. Questioning prosecutorial priorities isn't anti-law enforcement. It's Congress doing its job, especially when the Department of Justice appears increasingly aligned with the political interests of Donald Trump rather than the Constitution it's supposed to defend.